everybody for joining us for our conversation with the Divinity Roxx. I'm so excited that you were able to join us. Um, I know a little bit about you, but I want everyone to be able to learn more about you. But I do want to just share that how we got connected was through the WNBA Juniors event we did, and we were both a panelist. And I don't remember the question, but there was an answer that she gave, and I thought, okay, I need to talk to her. There's something there. I need to have a conversation with her. So then we striked up a conversation, and friendship blossomed from there. So thank you so much again for taking the time. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and that you're best known for?
Thank you so much for having me. That was really an awesome introduction for the two of us. We're like kindred spirits. Um, my name is Divinity Roxx. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I am a bass player. I'm a performer. I'm a composer. I'm now an author and a family music artist. I am best known probably for most people for having been the bass player for Beyonce for a number of years, and for other people who are bass players as well, I may be most known for having toured with one of the greatest bass players in the world, Mr. Victor Wooten. So that's just a little bit about me.
Okay, okay. So we'll get to Victor in just a minute, but I do want to touch on something you just said just a little bit about the books, the author. You know, with this being Women's History Month, that's a pretty big thing. You know, being a bass player, being a female, being a bass player, and all the things that you're doing in addition to writing a book. So where did that come from? It didn't seem to kind of fit into the music piece.
It's funny because it actually does. The one, so I've just written two books that were published by Scholastic. They're books geared toward pre-K through second grade, I would say, and they're based off of two songs that I wrote that are part of my family music album entitled Ready, Set, Go. I had an opportunity during the pandemic to collaborate with Scholastic on some music, and they liked the music so much they wanted to create books based on the lyrics of the songs. So inadvertently, I became an author.
It all just kind of came together, huh?
It's funny because that's sort of how my life has been
Mm.
in general. Things just coming together, walking this path and having other little paths open up and being the adventurer and explorer I am. Kind of, oh, well, what's down here? What's walking down this
Hmm.
path and discovering something about myself that I may not have known before.
Interesting, interesting. So with this being again Women's History Month, I would love for you to kind of go in a little bit more about being a female bass player for those in the audience that don't know much about that, and why is it so significant being a female and being, as accomplished as you are as a bass player.
Well, I mean, I think when people think about the bass guitar, they immediately associate it with men. Um, because oftentimes when you look on stage, you see men playing the bass guitar, and the bass is heavy, and it has this low voice, this manly voice, I guess you can say. So people associate it with men, but there are so many incredible females who have picked up this instrument and really taken it to another level. And I would say that maybe I'm one of those people. I didn't start off as a bass player. I didn't grow up playing the bass. I always loved the bass. My uncle played the bass, and when I was a kid, he did put it in my hands, but I wasn't that interested in it because I was a clarinet player and his main instrument was saxophone. So I was always at his house trying to play a saxophone.
Mm.
Maybe he knew something I didn't know. But when I went to college, I was hanging out with a bunch of musicians. I started writing my own raps in middle school, and I had a high school hip hop group. And so when I went to college, I went to UC Berkeley to become a journalist, and I was started hanging out with all the musicians and the artists who were not particularly students at Berkeley, but they were in the neighborhood in Oakland and Berkeley, and there's so many creative people, and it's so cool and free, and it's like a super hippie vibe, and it's just this creative space. I was hanging out with musicians, and something about that really inspired me. I asked one of my friends, he would give me guitar lessons if I went home for the summer and bought a guitar. And he was the one who suggested that I buy a bass guitar instead.
Hmm.
For some reason, he was like, "You're a bass player." He prophesized. He's like, "You're a bass player." He's like, "You're just the way you are. Your attitude, your personality is that of a bass player." And so, I didn't have any attachments to guitar or bass. So I said, okay, well, that sounds fun. And I went and got a bass, and he started showing me the mechanics of playing the bass at that time.
Hmm. So you started out a musician, a writer, then went to the route of being a journalist, but then
Yes.
came back to being a musician and a writer.
Yes, it's so funny because I chose the profession of journalism because that seemed like it would, it's a real profession, right? I could pay some bills. I could get a job working for some corporation being a journalist. At least that's what I was thinking when I was younger. And I also had this deep desire to want to be a novelist, like some of my favorite artists, Alice Walker, Toni Morrison, Intozaki Shange. And I figured that journalism could be the track that I could go on to become those people.
Mm-hmm.
But music was and is just all is my love, is my heart, is what I love to do.
Well, let's get a little bit more into the music piece. So, I would love to hear about your mentor, because I think that from what I know, he's had a significant impact on not just music, but just you and the way that you developed as a person, and that self-awareness piece, which is part of the wisdom, not curriculum. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
I met Victor Wooten at his very first base camp. I was determined to learn from the master because he was and is a masterful bass player. So I go there to, like most other students, just learn from him. And I guess he recognized something in me that could add to his show.
Mm-hmm.
So after the camp, he asked me if I would go on tour with him. I was like, yes, I'll go on tour with you. So I had this opportunity. I always liken it to being a martial artist. You go into the mountains and you seek the master, and you drop to your knees and beg the master to teach you. And the master, basically says, go paint the fence or do something that seems unrelated to what it is that you're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to live with him, and I got to just be a part of him as a human being and how he poured into everybody he met. So he was an incredible musician, and I learned so much from him. He never sat down and gave me lessons.
Mm.
I just got to watch his show every night, question him about how he was able to go out there and do what he was doing. And he never, I mean, he always shared his whole self with me, and he would do that with everybody. And that was so impactful because it really opened me up to lending my full self
Mm.
to other people, to the music, to just being a whole human being. He helped me realize that there was a better version of myself that I could be.
Mm.
And so I started to really do some internal work to uncover that person and be that person in the world.
You mentioned that it also helps you do that to other people. So is that like a paying it forward piece that you picked from him as well?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't even think about it like that now. Like I don't even think he thinks about it like that. He just sees people in their in their complete humanity, and he's curious. He is just in his nature to connect with other human beings. And I believe that and it's really hard when you're an artist because you're giving all of yourself on stage, and then after the show, it can be overwhelming to have lines and lines of people coming and wanting to talk to you and get something from you and get an autograph and just have a conversation. But I've watched him do that for 3
Mm.
hours after a show,
Mm.
and I know he's tired. But he just he does it, and that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you say about somebody like that. That's masterful. That's what mastery is. You know, that's what a spiritual guru would do. Pour
Mm-hmm.
into all the people who come. That's what Jesus did, right?
Mm.
I don't mean to get all religious because I'm not.
But
That's not where I was trying to go. But yeah, you know, really becoming the whole self is what it's all about in this journey, I think.
mm. And I can see that in what you do. And I was just thinking back to our conversation over dinner and just how I felt like it was such a rich conversation. I mean, we laughed about everything, but we got serious too, right? We got some things accomplished. We got serious, but I did feel like there was that piece, pouring into each other information that we had to share, and wanting to make sure that it was, we're reciprocated, that we were doing that, because I think that's where we both come from. That's what we want to do, is we want to uh, help whoever's around us get to where we want to get to, where we want to get to, right?
Absolutely. And especially when you're talking to another woman, especially another black woman who has similar experiences in this
Mm-hmm.
country, in this world, and how
Mm-hmm.
people see you and how people react to you. So when we come together and are able to pour into each other, there's just this whole nother level that we get to experience with one another. You know what I mean? I don't even know how to talk about it because it gets so deep.
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. And I'm remembering which I'd love for you to share for our viewers, the story with I believe it was your niece, that because you don't think of yourself as famous, but she was bragging her body at school. So I'm gonna let you continue that conversation in her music class. Was that the Yes, I
Yes,
think that's a
my
good.
niece. It's her birthday tomorrow too, so it's really funny. So my niece, you know, she is really outgoing. And I don't know how to describe her any other way. She's just outgoing and bubbly and fun. And she tells her music teacher, you know, my aunt is really famous. My aunt is a famous bass player. And he's like, oh yeah, who's your aunt? She was like, her name is Divinity Roxx. And I don't know how this music teacher knew me. He was like, oh yeah, she is really famous. So he was like, "Do you think your aunt would come and do like a master class for the students?" She was like, "Yes." So she called me. I mean, she just straight volunteered me to do this master class. But I tell you, it was so much fun because the
Oh.
kids were going to school virtually at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And it was
Mm-hmm.
easy for me because I was home. So I just turned my computer on, picked up the bass, played some songs, answered their questions. My
Mm.
favorite question from one of the students was, if you're really good, do you still have to practice? I
Well,
think he said, if you're naturally talented, do
that's-
you still have to practice? I was like, of course you have to practice. Because those people who may not be as naturally talented as you, they're going to work so hard
yes.
to be better that if you're not practicing, they're going to surpass you. And then they're going to get the gig and you're going to be sitting around like, but I'm naturally talented.
That is that is so true. And bringing the connection to sports, is that is, the phrase, or the quote, and I'm just paraphrasing, I can't remember exactly, but it's just something to the fact that if you're not at the gym today, there's somebody else at the gym waiting to take your spot.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. If you're not practicing, there's somebody else that's practicing because they're ready to take your position. You're right. So you're true. You gotta, regardless of what your talent is, you still gotta practice. Still
Oh,
gotta practice. So, um, how do you think music and sports come together? Because I did not think about it till our conversation. So I want you to kind of help the viewers connect that music and sports.
oh man, it's such music and sports are so similar. Athletes and musicians, you know, and I'm going to talk about team sports specifically, because I know more about team sports than individual sports. I would say that being a musician in a band is like being on a team I played softball growing up, and I my position was the shortstop. So I have very specific things that I have to do to contribute to
Hmm.
the team. As a bass
Hmm.
player, I'm the same way. I have a very specific role in this band. I can't do what the guitar player is doing or the drummer or in the piano player, anything. I have to be the bass player and play my role, play my position. And I think that's the same way that's how it works in team sports. You know, if you're a basketball player, you're the point guard. You can't be down at the post. Like you got to do what you're doing. You're the quarterback. You now that we got this new quarterback, thing in the NFL. However, you're the
Right.
quarterback. You're the leader of the team. You're passing the ball to other people to make plays, and everybody is
Hmm.
playing a very specific position. I also think, and Victor used to say this all the time that he was an athlete. That as a bass player and as a musician, you have to condition your body. You're playing with your body, but
Hmm.
most importantly, even when you're playing sports, it's really about how you sharpen your mind.
Hmm.
Because there are times when your body doesn't want to do what you want it to do. You don't want to run another mile. You, I just can't
Right.
run another mile. I just can't stand here and play this 3 hour show. But your mind has to be so sharp that your mind is in control of what your body is doing. So, I mean, I think that there are so many similarities. And music is always a part of sports. When you go to the stadium, they're playing music to get everybody hype. There's
Hmm.
music in the background of all of the videos we watch. It's
Hmm.
so intricately and intimately related. I mean, what's the Super Bowl without halftime?
I mean, that's great point. I mean, more so this, what the last Super Bowl, that was
Woo!
that halftime. I'm telling you, that was one of those, and all the memes, all the things that went out, but the truest one is, my kids were like, "How do you know all the words?"
All the words.
All the words to every song. How do you know? I'm like, yes, yes. But that's true. That connection. And I remember one thing you said to me that made me think, that I didn't think about, was Monday Night Football. That song, Monday Night Football. I mean, that you equate Monday Night Football just when you hear that song. And I was like, that is so true. The connection with sports and music is so strong, so strong. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you coming to talk to us. I would love for you to leave us with any advice, any nuggets that you want to pass on to. Let's say there's a young girl that's into music, but really not sure she wants to be in the music. What kind of advice would you give to her?
Wow. I would say that you are allowed to reinvent yourself as
Mm,
many times as you like in this life. For as long as you are alive, you have breath and you have the ability to do something.
mm,
You can always change what you're doing. I want to go back to you. You were doing something else before you started doing what you're doing now, right? Like,
correct.
yeah, like when I was a
Hmm.
child, I didn't know I was going to be this bass player person in this world,
Hmm.
so just keep reinventing yourself to
I love
get to
that.
the best version of yourself. At that.
I love that you can continue to reinvent yourself. That's so true. So true. So thank you again for your time. We loved having you, and we love to have you come back again to talk some more with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.